Hello, KW family. This is Stephanie Deaver coming at you with a training video today. And in this video today, I'm going to teach you all about the basics of using DocuSign. I'm going to start out here in Command just to get us linked through DocuSign for this opportunity and go from there and show you the basics of how to use DocuSign. Just as a disclaimer for this video, we have already connected our DocuSign account with our Command account. So those have already been synced up through Command. There are other videos that you can reach out on if you need help at that point. But as of right now, DocuSign is already set up in Command for us. All right, so today I'm actually in one of our agents' Command accounts, just so that way I can have access to certain forms, because as me being not an agent, I have certain restrictions on forms. So we're going to pretend that Michaela is selling my and my husband's house. So we're going to walk through the steps with DocuSign of what that would look like. So first of all, we're here in Command, and I have myself in as a contact in Michaela's account, and then we're going to go start an opportunity. All right, it's going to be a listing, and I'm the client, and my husband is the co-seller with me. Reminder, when you're naming your opportunities, especially if it's a listing, we need it to be named the address of the property. So this is going to be 123 Example Road listing. And then we'll say commission rate is at 3%. And Michaela is just about getting ready to do a listing appointment with us. So we're in that cultivate phase. We haven't quite met for an appointment yet, but we're getting very close. So she's getting her paperwork already ahead of time before she's coming to meet with us as clients. So we're going to go ahead and create this opportunity. All right, then I can see now this is linked under my contact info here. So now I'm going to click on the name here and open up that opportunity for us. And then here is our details page of the opportunity. And now I'm going to hop over into documents. This is where we are actually going to start our transaction with DocuSign. So we're going to click over here on this start transaction on this drop down arrow, and we're going to click on DocuSign. Previously, if you're familiar with dot loop, this is where it would make a loop for you. Well, in DocuSign, these are now called rooms. So your transaction for your specific clients are now called rooms in DocuSign. So what I just did there is I hit on start transaction through DocuSign, and then it opened up a room for me here. If I go back to this command page, I'm going to go, it's a good habit here if you go right back in here and hit sync transaction. And what it's going to do is it's going to update Tyler and I's information into DocuSign for us. So it's going to help you fill out or rather not have to fill out a few things. All right, now I'm going to go back into this DocuSign room. So here you can see it's got the name of the opportunity that we just had here. Now, let me give you kind of a basic overview of what you're seeing on this page here. We are in our DocuSign room specifically for this transaction, and you see different tabs across the top here. We're going to focus on 3 of these tabs today. We're going to look and start out in the Details tab, which kind of just like the Details tab in Command, this is where it houses all the information for your transaction. Documents is just what it sounds like. These are kind of where you get your forms from TAR, things like that. This is where you edit those forms. And then what's a little bit new to us here is what's called envelopes. This is where you're actually going to send things off for signatures. So signatures don't happen in this Documents tab, it happens in this Envelopes tab. And we're going to walk you through that here today. So I highly encourage everybody to start in this Details tab. Don't dive into Documents because there's some things you can add in the details here that'll actually sync up into your documents for you, kind of like an autofill. All right, so what we can do is here, this page shows us our basic info. And because I hit sync transaction, notice that I am already over here on the side as seller 1. My husband is in here as seller 2. And Michaela is in here as our listing agent. So that information synced from command into the room here. All right, now I'm gonna hit edit and I'm gonna add, so here's the name, things like that. If you need to change your room name, you could. We're gonna select that we are working in US dollars. We're not under contract. She doesn't have an MLS yet because we haven't added it to the MLS. She's still, we haven't met yet for this listing agreement or listing appointment. But she does know the address of our house. So let's say it is 123 Example Road. And let's say that is Mount Juliet. And that is in Wilson County in Tennessee. Okay, and 37122. Okay, property type, it is a residential detached home. And let's just say this home was built in 2005. Here's where you could add some special circumstances. We don't need to add any of that right now. Okay, listing details. Again, because Michaela is just going on a listing appointment with us here, we don't know these details, but it's very important for you to go back and add this information in because again, like I said, it will sync up into your forms, which will make things a little easier. Same thing over here with offer details, adding that in, everything on here. As you get those details, go back in and edit this in order to help have the info ready. All right, so this is all kind of information about the listing, the property, all that kind of stuff. Over on the right-hand side here is where you see seller 1, seller 2, listing agent 1, and then down here is where you can actually add listing agent 2, and then also buyer information. So later down the road, when we know the buyers for this home and the buyer's agents, we can add information in there for us as well. Now, let me just give you one kind of disclaimer. Notice it brought over our cell phones and our emails from command when we hit sync. Please note that on those TAR forms, down at those signature boxes, it has a spot for, your client's, obviously name and signature, but it also has a spot for phone number and email. If you have this information in here, it can show up on some of your documents, which would be seen by a listing agent, possibly the buyers of the home. So if you want to protect your client's information, you may want to actually delete this part out. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing their phone number and email, especially if you're sharing it with other agents, we don't want to give away their info. So if you want, you can delete this out. Okay, so I'm going to hit save down at the bottom here, and that is the details page. Again, I'm about to show you how this is going to autofill over into some of our populations there. Okay, so now we are ready to move over into documents. This is where we're actually going to bring in our forms and actually start working and making those there. Now, please note, I'm actually going to swap out of Michaela's account here for a quick second. If you have never used DocuSign before yet, when you go and when you're in Documents and you click on Add, you're going to want to click on DocuSign Forms. You can upload documents from your computer, from Zip Forms, other places, but most of your forms are going to be in this DocuSign Forms. Notice the very first time when you are in DocuSign, you are actually going to have to verify that you are a realtor with the Tennessee Association by putting in your NERDS number. So what you will do is, again, let me show you where you're going to go. You're going to click Add, DocuSign Forms. You're going to click on the National Association of Realtors. Here's where you're going to enter in your NERDS number, and then you are going to select the Tennessee Realtors Association. It's actually down towards the very bottom. This list, for some reason, is not alphabetized, so just kind of scroll all the way to the bottom. You'll do Tennessee Association of Realtors, put in your NERDS number, and you'll hit validate. That's how you will be able to access all of the TAR forms. If you do not do this, you won't have access to any forms, so this is very important. And if you do not know your NERDS number, reach out to your board. Your board is who has that information of what your NERDS number is. All right, so just wanted to let you know, the very first time you go into DocuSign, you will need to do this. After that, it will save your information for you. All right, so we have already done that in Michaela's account, so I need to add some forms. I'm going to click DocuSign Forms. And then this will be our default. It's going to say DocuSign Forms Library, and because we've connected her NERDS number, she now has access to all of the Tennessee TAR forms here. So I clicked Library Form, then I selected TAR, and this has every single TAR form in here available to you. And notice, just based on the way it's listed in here and alphabetized, all the commercial ones are showing up first, and then you see residential for the RF. Now, if you know what form you need, you can just type searching, and let's say, okay, we needed the wire fraud. So I just typed in wire, and this came up. Let's say we needed the listing agreement. Okay, notice again, it's coming up with commercial information, but if I keep scrolling, okay, and there I can see exclusive right to sell listing agreement, designated agency. Now, you can click and select and add, or you can select multiple. Let's go back and add our wire fraud. Okay, so even though you can see as I'm searching and selecting these, it's collecting a total down here, and then I would click add. But I want to let you know that there's an easier way that we as a market center have set up for you. Instead of searching through all of the TAR forms for what you need, go up to this drop down up here where it says DocuSign Forms Group. Here, as a market center, we have made a form set for listing documents and buying documents. So again, this is a listing that we are doing here. And then here is a list of all of those typical things that you will need for a listing. And I'm going to select all of them and add them into this documents part of our room. So again, how I got this whole kind of pre-populated list of forms is I went to DocuSign groups. Let me show you once more. So instead of library, I'm selecting group, and then I can select listing or buying documents. Again, these were set up by the Market Center here for you. Okay, now we are ready to go ahead and start typing in on these documents now. Now we've pulled them into this room and we can start editing. So logically, the first thing that we're going to start looking at if she's getting ready for a listing appointment would be that listing agreement. All right, so again, notice how some of this is already pre-populating for us, which is wonderful. So it's already giving us our company name, address, and it pulls our information of seller 1 and seller 2 right here. It pulled in our address for us, so we didn't have to fill this out. You may just want to verify and double check that the information is correct. But then here is where you can go in and add all of those things. Now, please, an important thing to note. So we're pretending that Michaela is our agent right now. This is her DocuSign account. Notice her name didn't auto-populate right here. However, if I type this in on this first page here, it will auto-populate for the rest of the document. So you just have to do that once, and then it'll do it on the rest of the pages there. All right, so then this is where Michaela would go through. She would verify and put everything in that we would need for our listing agreement, all that kind of stuff. Type in our price. Let's just say we're listing our house for $250,000. Okay. We're gonna list on September 1st of 2020. And let's just say February 1st of 2021. Okay. Again, obviously as a realtor, you're going to go in and fill out all of this information in your listing agreement. And then let's just say you always put in that your clients will pay in that special steps. Clients will pay a broker fee of $148 at the time of closing. So you can put that in there and explain what that is to your clients. All right, and then notice again, it's filling in my name and Tyler's name and then Michaela's information. This is where I was kind of warning you before. Had we left the email and phone number for myself and Tyler, it would have pre-populated that on here. And again, certain documents like a purchase and sale, you're going to be sending that to other agents, and you just probably want to protect your client's information. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So I've filled out everything I need to do here. I'm going to hit save and close. All right, so that has been saved right in here. And some of the other things that might get signed might be our wire fraud warning, or other things like that. So, all right, let's say Michaela had our listing agreement with us. We are ready to go. She updated the listing agreement fully. She's ready for us to sign that as well as a few other documents. What we're going to do, because she is ready to send us things for signatures, we're going to now click on this envelopes tab up here. All right, so it's saying we don't have any envelopes. We're going to go ahead and create new. So the reason why this is called envelopes is kind of think about like sending documents in the mail to somebody. This is going to send however many documents we specify to Tyler and myself for signatures here. So let's just say you are, just a kind of a pro tip here, you are going to want to rename your envelope each time, because otherwise you're going to have a bunch that say please DocuSign. So it's helpful to actually name it of what you're sending them. So let's say Michaela's going to send us the listing agreement and wire fraud warning, just so that document is done and out of the way. Okay, so from here we're going to add documents into this envelope. So this is the naming it. This is saying, hey, what documents do you want to send? So we're going to select room docs, because that's going to pull from those forms that we just made. Okay, so we just edited the listing agreement, and then the wire fraud warning we don't have to do any editing to. And maybe I want to send the COVID release as well. Actually, I don't know off the top of my head if that needs any editing or not. But anyway, okay, wire fraud warning and exclusive right to sell. I'm going to hit add selected, and now you can see it's pulling in those forms for us. And right here, if I just wanted to double check, I can view and it's just going to kind of pull up a preview. And again, you can see this is the form that has our edited information in there. Okay, so that's the correct document. So now we're saying, okay, this is what the name is, this is what we're sending the documents. Now if we scroll down here, we need to hit who we're sending it to. Okay, so I'm going to use these pre-tagged roles. So notice in that details page how it had buyer one, seller one, you know, all those different roles. That's what a pre-tagged role is. So this is going to pull for us right now. So Michaela just has to send this to Tyler and I, which are seller one and seller two. And then from here, I can go select seller one is Stephanie, seller two is Tyler. And now, had you left their emails in there, it would have auto-filled our emails. But like I said, if you leave the emails in, then it also puts it on those forms, which we may or may not want. So I'm just going to manually type in my email. And let's just pretend Tyler has the front desk email. Okay. All right. And what do those people need to do? Well, they need to sign this document. Now, you could add somebody else. So notice there's needs to view, receives a copy, this and that. So maybe that's like a lender who just needs to give a CC of a copy of a purchase and sale agreement or things like that. But again, you're adding who those recipients are, who needs to sign these documents. All right, then if you scroll down once more, the email subject, so it's going to put please DocuSign. I'm going to change that to please sign these forms to list your house. And I could put, hi, Stephanie and Tyler. Please sign the listing agreement and wire fraud warning for our records. So excited to be listing your house. Can't wait to get it on the market. Okay, obviously you put whatever you want in here, but just know this is what it is sending to your clients. Okay, now here, if I just hit this save and close button, that is just going to save this as a draft. So say I'm not ready to send it off yet, this is just going to save it as a draft here. All right, but let's say I actually am ready. The next thing I'm going to do is hit that next button. And then this is what's pretty cool of DocuSign here. So notice up at the top here, this is actually, if we scroll down a ways, we'll see this is where it's assigning the signatures on these documents here. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the listing agreement. And so notice it's already putting a spot in here for seller one to sign and for seller two. And notice if I click up here, here's where I can toggle between who needs to sign, who needs to fill out what. So the yellow is always seller one, this blue designates as seller two, and then it's auto-filling that info here for us. Now, some people I've heard, it might be a good idea that you want people to initial next to this special stipulation so that way they're acknowledging that. So if I want both, if I'm Michaela and I want both Stephanie and Tyler to be acknowledging this special stips, or if there were other things they needed to fill out in the document above, Here's where you can actually drag and drop and add things in on these documents for your clients to fill out. So I don't need a signature right here, but I do want Stephanie to initial saying she understands these special steps. And I'm going to go to the drop down and click the same thing for Tyler. And I'm going to drag and drop these initials in over here because I want them both to initial that for me. All right. Let's just say, again, me not being a realtor, I don't know if there's anything else in a listing agreement for the clients to really fill out, but it's mostly you as an agent. But let's just say I needed a checkbox somewhere, or I needed to have my clients add in some text right there if they were putting that in, or if I needed a checkbox. And typically I would be adding this under probably Stephanie's name because she is listed as seller 1 and Tyler seller 2. It really doesn't matter though. And then, so I'm dragging and dropping these checkboxes, text boxes, all these different things are down in here, okay? And then there's different custom fields. It can get pretty advanced, but here are your basic signature, date signed, text box, checkbox, all that kind of stuff. Now, let's just say I don't need this. I can highlight it and select delete, or I can just use the delete button on my keyboard to get rid of these. Another great thing is if you are filling out a form and you needed a lot of text boxes, so let's say here, but then I want to reformat, you can drag and drop how big your text box is. And I'm just going to hit, there are shortcuts over here. If I click this shortcuts, this shows me kind of my keyboard shortcuts. So if I want to duplicate that text box, I'm going to hit Shift or Command D, and then I can easily duplicate and make more of those. Okay, but like I said, for this document, I just wanted to have them initial, each of them, both Stephanie and Tyler, seller 1 and seller 2, to initial by the special steps. Their signatures were already in here, or not signatures, but the signature boxes are already here and the dates. And then notice the same thing for the initial and the signature on the wire fraud warning. All right, so that is already in there and ready to go. So this is the final step. If you go ahead and hit send, this is going to actually send for them, okay? Or you can hit back, and if you needed to change anything or save and close, but I am actually ready to send this. So I am going to go in here. And I'm going to click send. All right, now it has, so Michaela has now sent this to Stephanie and Tyler, and now we can see that our envelope is waiting on others for those signatures. And then let me just open up into my other window here, and I can see, let me do a quick refresh. And Michaela has sent me these these documents. So review documents. So this is what it looks like for your clients. Here they can see that message that Michaela sent. Please sign. I'm going to continue. And I can review down on through. And if I hit the start, then it's going to take me down to the initial. Yes, I'm going to use that as my signature. I'm going to sign. I'm going to initial. I'm going to sign. And oh, next, okay. Initial, sign. Oh, that's why I'm not clicking on them. Okay, so notice it is putting my signature in there for us. It is time stamping it. and I'm going to hit finish. Okay, and that's just saying because I have a DocuSign account. If it was a client who didn't have a DocuSign account, it's going to be like, hey, do you want to sign one or make one? Okay, so let's go back into Michaela's DocuSign and let's refresh now and look at her envelopes. And it should give me an update. Okay, that Stephanie has signed, but Tyler has not signed yet. So you are getting updates about that, which is great. All right. Now, last but not least, there's one other thing I want to show you. And I did a different example in Michaela's account that I want to show you. So I made one called Emily Example. So I already sent off some documents. This is what it looks like when both people have signed or all the parties have signed. So in this case, it was only her. And then I'm going to click on Documents. So I had her sign, this was for a buyer rep agreement. So I had her sign that and the wire fraud. Now notice, I have 2 of these buyer rep agreements now in my Documents tab. This is just a templated form that I can still go back in and edit this form that I originally worked on. This right here is the signed version of what I sent to the client. And so if I click on it, it's got the info in there. And again, it's got the signature here, okay? So we can see all of that. All right, so this is your finalized copy of that document. And then just know it will also give you the certification PDFs as well. This is certifying that the client has signed both of these documents and it was completed at this time. So those are information things there. All right, this is the basics of DocuSign here. So you're going to create your rooms through command, and then you are going to fill out all the details that you know so that way it can autofill into your documents. And again, to add these documents in here, you're going to hit add and then DocuSign forms. Remember that very first time you're going to have to connect with your NERDS number. You're going to edit your forms in here to fill out the information for your clients. And then once you're actually ready to send something off for signatures, you're going to use this envelopes tab. And that's where it goes in and actually sends it to your clients. And once they have signed, it'll show up back here as a green color-coded form, and it won't say form, it'll say signed. Let me show you also what that looks like in command. So let's see, let's go to opportunities. And I'm going to go into that example, Emily. All right, and I go into documents. And so now I already brought in one of those signed documents, but I need to bring in the wire fraud that example Emily has signed. So I'm going to go find that in command. I'm going to click add a file, and then I'm just going to click where it says DocuSign. And then here, this is all of those documents and forms that are in that Documents tab. But let's scroll down and notice there is wire fraud warning, and then there's wire fraud warning signed. You are always going to want to be bringing those signed copies over into command. And then now that document is saved into command as a PDF. So here I had Emily's signatures and things like that. So this was a basic overview of DocuSign. Just know one other thing, if you see some kind of goofy things with your time zone, if you go under preferences, and actually off the top of my head and lost it here, but I believe, let's see, it's either under your preferences or your account. I don't want to do this in Michaela's. Let me switch over. You can select your time zone. Here we go. Time zone, central. So just make sure you have that for legal purposes for timestamps as well. So again, that was under preferences, profile, time zone. Make sure you're in central and then save that as well. All right, I hope you found this video to be very helpful, and good luck in all of your DocuSign forms. Thanks.